Welcome back to Newsday. Thank you for staying with us. Last year's Nigerian general election was contested against a backdrop of some radical alignment and realignment of political forces. There were many of them, but the one that struck closest to home was the G5 group of governors. Led by current Minister of Federal Capital Territory and immediate former governors of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, the group brazenly undermined their own political party at the polls in favor of an unlikely alliance with a rival political party, albeit with personal or for personal gain. With the elections over and done with, the defections and cross-carpeting are continuing unabated. What could be the implication of all of that for the nation's election cycle and the expected evolution of her democracy? Well, we're now being joined by Arise News analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi. Good afternoon, Dr. Amadi. Thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's start with Doyin Okupe of the Labour Party. According to the leadership of Labour Party, he has been described as a food is ready politician. And I'm just wondering if you think he's done anything wrong based on this defection, since he said that there's a clash of ideologies which prompted this.
Well, first, I think we have to be fair to Doyin. He wasn't really a Labour Party member. I mean, before Peter Obi's emergence, he did a great job taking Peter around while they were still in PDP. He was the first people who stepped out and pushed Peter as the best candidate for this election. And he went around, and then they made a choice for Labour. So he was more of Peter Obi and obedient at some point. And then when the crisis came and he was asked to move on, and he moved on, I think he has got little connection to Labour Party as a party. And since he left that presidential campaign, he has not been very much engaged with either the Peter Obi, the obedient, or the Labour Party as such. So he's leaving the party in a formal sense. It's less of an event, considering that he doesn't have robust linkages beyond Peter's and his presidential aspiration, which he worked hard on. Again, he talked about ideological difference. I say he's a center-right politician, and rightly so. I mean, from NRC, where he was one of the quote-unquote intellectual writing on the back page of Daily Times with Utomi and others, to PDP, where he also served as spokesperson, as communication person to President Obasanjo. He rightly could be called a center-right. But again, the Nigerian politics and partisan politics has moved on from ideology. I mean, so really, the Labour parties exist. Notionally, conceptually, should be center-left. But if you look at the people who are running the place, the senators and even the governor in Ebonyi, in Abia State, you can't really say he's left of the center, so to say. So I think the ideological the ideological issue brought up could be a cop-out. The basic thing is that, look, there's no prospect for an establishment politician like Doyin Okupe in Labour today. I mean, Labour controls just Abia State. Labour has a few countable senators and House of Rep members. So where does a politician like Doyin fit in for political career, quote-unquote career? So I think he basically gets himself, remove all kind of baggage to probably now decide whether to go into the APC, which is the gravy train, which is the real deal in terms of what politicians look for, payouts and opportunities and pork. So this is just political career. This is basically stepping out and making a choice to how next to drive his political career. Has little to do with ideological differences. And again, I don't think he did much by formally leaving Labour Party, where he has very little, if any, connections at the moment.
Right. Now, speaking of political careers, when you look at the Labour Party and the picture that you've painted ideologically and the fact that we see a shift from that norm, you look at Peter Obi himself, who is a consummate capitalist, and a number of the other lawmakers that you've mentioned here. Now, my question is there a chance in the next 3 years that we'll see an evolution where the Labour Party will want to go back to purifying its role as a centre left movement and in essence no longer being able to accommodate these people? As you know, Doyin Okupe said, it was more or less a special purpose vehicle for the purposes of running an election. It was never about believing in the Labour Party. Is it possible that the Labour Party will start spitting out some of these politicians?
Sure, I mean, that's a good point. Okupe is right, special purpose vehicle. Now, what happens going forward depends on the dynamics. The NLC that owns the Labour Party has been a little bit half-hearted about what it wants to do. I mean, the NLC is clearly left of the center. And again, left, right, center, all changes with time. We look at what happened in Britain. The Labour Party has been historically left party, but under Tony Blair and others, the Third Way and all the reconceptualization about ideology. So we are now in, some will argue, some kind of post-ideology world. And what that means for political parties down south is that we might not see a real coherent left-center party, whether the Labour NLC drives this or not. So Labour Party may mutate a little bit to the left, depending on the tendencies. For example, if Peter Obi is going to be the candidate, you would not expect a very articulate left-center, politicking, because he is not totally left-center. He is probably right, tilting towards left in terms of some ideology, some issues around poverty, around prudence. So what we're going to see going forward is that those who are not happy, there will be two divisions here: mainstream and fringe. Establishment and non-establishment. People who are not happy with the system, a mixed match of people who are angry would probably coalesce around the Labour Party on the person of Peter Obi and whoever comes around with him. And those who are mainstream will be on the other side. And then those who lose out in the power game, this is what happens. Every primary, in 2027 primary, the people who are now in APC and PDP, if they lose out and they see momentum with Labour, they could go on, and Labour would tactically accommodate them for purpose of winning elections. So we're going to see this nondescript, indistinguishable, melange of ill-thought-out ideologies clashing and coalescing and moving. We're going to have clarity now. So we're going to see bulk of leftists, left-center people in Labour Party, but also going to see them working with centrists and some right-wingers in the Labour Party because of the convenience of politics and the context in which power will be, struggled for in 2027. So I won't see much clarity. I'm not expecting that. We'll rather see some grouping of those who are not happy, those who miss out in the show, and those who have ingrained, antagonism against establishment, maybe coming to strengthen the Labour Party, which will look like the main opposition. And then PDP somewhere struggling with Labour APC, for who is really the national party, who is at the real center, who is trustworthy. Everything also depends on how Bwala Tinubu delivers. If they fail, then the anger will either, some will go to the left, which will be Labour now, and some will go to PDP, which will be right contesting against establishment.
Well said, Dr. Amadi. Now, let's shift from talking about Labour Party to the PDP right now in terms of Daniel Bwala. Of course, he stated that he was largely impressed with the president's recent gesture to cut back on the cost of governance. But we have had analysts that have said that we, of course, would need some time to see the dividends of what this gesture would mean for our coffers and whatnot. So do you think that him saying he was largely impressed by the plans that the president has, that are in line with that recent gesture, was more or less a cover-up as regards something else, since we haven't seen the real fruit of that gesture at this time?
I think really nobody should take Daniel Bwala serious about his mission to the villa. That's the truth. I mean, about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, he had an interview where he said, give Amadi Tinubu 100 years, he will not achieve anything. So he is a careerist, even though he's not a mainstream politician, he's a careerist in the support system that supports of politics. He was with, and he's close to me, so I know him a little bit. He was with Buhari and didn't get what he wanted, and then moved on to Atiku, had this kind of voyage or pilgrimage to Atiku, and then took a picture. And the next time he was appointed spokesperson. At the same time, he was keeping in touch with some of his APC leaders who I know very well. And then now that there's no way, Tinubu is the president of Nigeria for the next 4 years, and could be for 8 years if nothing happens. This guy also reads the fig leaf very well and decides to, go back. I mean, it's a cop-out. The idea of, impressed with what? I mean, even if Tinubu has taken all the right steps, right, nothing has happened in the last 2 weeks to create an epiphany. This is basically careerism. The guy is moving from one place to another and has a right to choose where. And he said, look, if supporting Tinubu leads me back to APC, but he could have said, in trying to find a fitting in Tinubu's government leads me to APC, I'll go back. And he left not on principle. He left because he scanned the political environment, and it looked like maybe with Buhari's terrible performance and some demand for change, it was Atiku's time. Many people were in that. I actually worked with the Atiku team initial time, but when Peter B came up and I said, look, I want to be neutral. So primarily, it was a political calculation when he joined Atiku. It's still a political calculation when he joined Tinubu now. So basically, forget the high-sounding, I'm impressed. By who? By what? It's basically making the next move politically. Where do I go? And then nothing wrong in saying, look, I want to work with Tinubu's government because really 4 years is too long to just sit by issuing tweets. That's not what I want. That's a choice you can make, and that's the choice he has made, basically. So let's not beautify it with some kind of philosophic epiphany. I just saw something, wow, let's support. Yes, it's right to support Tinubu, the government, to achieve because this is the president of Nigeria. But that's not what has happened here. This is a political support system shifting his base and looking for where else he can, pet.
Right. Now, while still maintaining the focus on PDP, Daniel Bwala is not the only PDP member who is making this move. The G5 governors, of course, through Samuel Utomi declaring their allegiance to the president and to the APC as well come 2027. What is the PDP without G5?
Big question. I mean, the PDP fought the election without G5 and got what they got. I think the PDP leaders obviously know that the G5 doesn't belong to the PDP when you talk about the presidential election. They fought for governorship, they fought for their senators, they fought for their House of Reps. So Makinde is still a governor. He's going to probably fight to have a successor from PDP. Utomi not in power, but still a PDP. So these guys will remain in PDP. But for all purposes, they were formed to fight Atiku. And now that Atiku has said he will likely run, they have pledged their allegiance to Tinubu and will do so because, like, if Utomi was right, he said, look, we are lost. We have nowhere to go. That's really important. Where are they going to go to? The party itself is now two parties. The Wike's party and the Atiku party. So they have nowhere to go. And the Wike's political game has to remain to support President Tinubu, except he wants to, run against the president, which is not very likely. So nothing has shifted. The PDP is a party that is grounded in the reasons. It's like a ship that is on sail and then grounded somewhere. It's grounded now. It's difficult to say how you can come up, but to come up, it's going to probably play dead brain to presidency and fight for other things, but knowing that he has lost the capacity to really put together to fight Tinubu's presidency. So what we're going to see going down the line is that many people in the PDP who are already the closest member of this G5, who are sympathizers, and who probably will support them when in the next 2 years, run down to the 27 election, you will see that the G5 it's a constellation of all those who oppose the article, all those who will support Tinubu, and all those who probably would play dead brain to the political contest. So it's real. Tinubu has a control of close to half of PDP, and that shows very well. Again, in the days to come, we're going to see major the campaign for PDP. I mean, at least one of the leading members have told me that he has made up his mind to join APC. And this is very simple. Nigerian politics today has become a struggle for economic value and social relevance. Really, none of these politicians, or few of them really, think about any commitment to structure, commitment to ideology is far-fetched. In fact, it doesn't exist. But let's even talk about structure, people, sympathy of those who voted for you, who stood with you, who fought with you. Those things don't count much. So it has nothing. Some are going to move from PDP to APC in the days to come. And if anyhow, assuming there was still a Supreme Court case and the tide turns on the side of PDP, you'll be shocked that those guys will move back to PDP. I will say, by the way, Atiku moved to APC where he lost to Jonathan, and moved back to PDP where he couldn't get Bwala out of the way, and then could move anywhere else if he loses control of PDP. That is the tragedy of Nigerian politics today. So these movements will continue because the political objective is about self-enrichment, it's about being in power, and not any commitment to ideology or even a social structure, nothing like that. We're going to see this happen and keep on happening. It's the story of where we are today in terms of party politics in Nigeria.
Well, Dr. Amadi, we have about 2 minutes with you, and you've made mention that what we're experiencing is the tragedy of Nigerian politics that's characterized with the struggle for economic value and social relevance. I'm just wondering if you still see a happy ending to this based on the realities that's staring us in the face. You already said that you're going to see more, decamping or defecting to the ruling party and whatnot. So does this have a happy ending?
I'm concerned to say no, it doesn't look like. I mean, except as the major economic crisis we're going to face forces a shift of mentality. And then the threat of the younger outsiders to take over forces change of behavior. There's no happy ending in sight.
All right. Rise News analyst Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you so much for your time and your insight. As always, do enjoy our conversations.